Hello and welcome to Come On Somebody. This time, instead of Pastor Dave, we have his better half. We have the beautiful Laura Vogt with us today. So we're just going to be talking about some mom stuff, I believe. We'll see where this takes us. You know, I like to get everybody off on a tangent. So welcome to the show, the cast, the podcast. I don't know what the lingo is, but so you are going to be bringing us the message on Mother's Day Sunday, which is this Sunday. So do you have like any like little teasers you want to give us on what we're going to be talking about?
Well, I gotta be honest, I'm still working on that, but I do have the outline, and we're gonna be talking about just burnout, honestly, and how to fix that, and how we can't pour from an empty cup. I think a lot of times as moms, just people in general, we're constantly faced with, you know, how do I be a good mom? How do I be a good wife? How do I give all my kids the equal amount of time? How do I work out? How do I eat healthy? How do I have quiet time? All the things, you know, like how do I be good at my job? And it can get pretty exhausting. So,
oh yeah, I definitely feel that. I know, like, especially when the kids were younger, it was one of those things where I was constantly like, there's not enough hours in the day, there's not enough time. And then I always felt like, you know, and I tell new parents too sometimes that you do get burnt out. It's okay, reach out for help, but also you kind of sometimes lose a sense of self.
Yeah.
Because you feel like you have to be this perfect mom. You have to, you know, this is why I watch those Netflix, like little documentary series, because when I see those crazy moms catfishing their children, I'm like, haha, I'm not that bad of a parent.
So awful. This is true.
Yeah. So, but it just like, I really struggled with that, especially after the twins were born, because it was so much just like you're in a mode, you're just doing it like, okay, I got to get all the kids ready. I got to get this one over to school, these ones to the sitter. Then I got to get to work, come home, and it's just on repeat. And there was no time left for me. Yeah. And it was awful. It was awful.
Yeah. It's exhausting.
It is very exhausting. Yep. And I know, like, one of the scriptures was always like, I can do all things in Christ who strengthens me. But then on the flip side, I was like, do I have to do all things?
Yeah, that's good. Yeah.
So I definitely had to kind of move into a perspective of like, you know, there are all these things and I don't have to do them all, you know, so maybe I can pass off some of the burdens, or maybe I just sit on the couch and let the laundry go unfolded. So, and don't invite anybody over.
Yep. It's so true. I used to be so just particular and crazy about the house and how everything was. And the more we kept bringing in kids and adding to our family, there's just a lot of that I really just had to let go, you know, and realize that it's okay if somebody else unloads the dishwasher and the spoons aren't perfect in the drawer. That's all right.
I recently found out my husband likes the silverware lined up a certain way because we have a top rack. I'm just throwing stuff in there. Like I am not your OCD type A anything. I'm just like function, like get it done.
Yes.
And then he's like, but no, if you pick these up, I was like, well, now that I know I can do this. So, but it's one of those things, I think, as being a parent, and like one of the struggles I've also had too is, you know, working inside the home versus outside the home, and you've done both.
Yes.
So for me, like, I never wanted to be a stay-at-home mom. It just was not for me. I just feel like in the times where I had to be at home for a while, I'm like, I can't do this.
Yeah.
And so I've always worked outside the home. But what's your perspective now that you're experiencing both?
I always tell Dave now, I'm like, man, can I be a stay-at-home mom now that all the kids are in school?
Yes. Amen to that.
That would be the ideal thing. But yes, when our biological kids were younger, I was a stay-at-home mom with them and we homeschooled. And that was definitely hard. And I'm not sure which is easier, like staying home or working an outside job.
I could never homeschool my kids. Kenzie is case in point of that, where she just is like, nope, I'm just not going to do that. Yeah. There's no way. Like my kids would die.
Yeah.
I would kill them.
We definitely, my kids could tell you some not so wonderful, glamorous stories, I'm sure. But it definitely, you know, that season, it did teach me a lot. It taught me a whole lot about patience and all of those things. So I'm grateful that we had that season of life. But I'm also thankful for daycare in the public school system. And there definitely are nights that I'm a night shift nurse, and there's definitely evenings that I'm walking out the door and I'm like, bye. Have fun. I'm so excited to be going to work right now, you know, even though you don't know what's waiting on you there. But it definitely can be exhausting. I personally have to guard against, kind of almost just this bitterness that can settle in because sometimes you're working like crazy outside the home. And then it is true, like you basically have two full-time jobs. And so you're going to work and are exhausted from doing that, but then you come home and it's like life doesn't stop at home. So the house still needs to be cleaned, the laundry still needs to be done, and all of those things. And like I said, when it comes to housework and laundry, I am very type A. And so, God bless Dave's heart when he does the laundry. It's such a blessing.
I definitely have looked at my husband when he put towels away, and I'm like, "Are you an axe murderer?"
Yeah.
Like, I've married you. Like, we've been married for 15 years, and I'm just now figuring
Yes.
that. At that point, it was 15. Now we're over
Yeah.
20, and he was like, "They're put away, aren't they?" And I'm like, "Okay, amen. Yes, thank
Yeah.
you, thank you, Jesus, for
Yes.
guiding my husband to put these towels."
Yes.
But yeah, I'm just like, what is happening right
Yep.
now? So
Yep.
there was a long time where I wouldn't let David fold shirts either because
Mm-hmm.
it was just, I'm like, what? And if they're inside out, he
Yeah.
would not like
Oh,
turn it.
gosh. Oh, my goodness.
I'm like, oh, you know what? It's your shirt, buddy. You just go for
Yeah.
it. But there is a big thing about letting those things go
Mm-hmm.
and just like being grateful that
Mm-hmm.
you have somebody that will do these
Yeah.
things.
Yep. And it's a surprise. Like I was getting Ezra dressed for school the other morning, and I found 2 pairs of my jeans in his drawer
Oh,
because I wear a woman's size of the same as him. So that was fun. I was like, hey, these are actually my pants. I've been looking for these. But Dave just saw the size and was like, these must be Ezra's.
these are little, they must
So
fit.
I'll take it as a compliment.
Yes, exactly.
But yeah.
Yeah. I know now working, you work outside the home and everything, and there are times where I definitely feel like some mom guilt because it is hard in what I do, as I'm sure as well as you, as being a nurse, working with the in the vet industry, it is definitely like this push, like you have to stay late, you have to do these things, and it really, for me, has helped that I do have an environment now that we're in, that we made changes and we're like, we don't work Saturdays.
Nice.
And now I can go to every single
Yeah.
soccer game. I don't have to be like, well, I have to do every other because I have to work. And then the value of being like, no, I have to leave because my kid has a band concert tonight.
Yeah.
Those kind of things. And I know other people aren't in that situation. And I'm always just trying to be encouraging, like, speak up for yourself. Like,
Yes.
if you need to put, which we should put our families first, you need to speak up for yourself. And if those people give you pushback, that's not the place for you.
Yep.
God has another place that you need to
Yeah.
be at.
Yeah, no, it's so true. I think, our employers will take as much as we're able to give
Oh,
or
absolutely.
willing to give, and so we do. We have to draw that line in the sand, and it is hard. I think one of the big things for me, and now we have teenage kids, and so this just happened this week, and I had worked 4 nights in a row, and had in the midst of that probably one of my worst shifts in all of my years of nursing. It was a very just traumatic, awful night, and didn't get to come home until about 4 hours after my shift. And I got home, and one of my kids was just ready to talk. And I was ready to die, I'm like, I've been up all night and this has just not been a great night. And he was just like pumped up, and like they had the youth revival this weekend. And he was just like convicted and on fire for the Lord. And I was like, man, God, don't let me miss this moment. But also on the inside, I also was just dying because I was like, I'm just so tired and didn't really feel like I had anything left to give of myself. But that's where God is just so faithful, like to come in and to just fill you up. And we had a great conversation, and I finally went to bed around noon. So had to go back to work that night.
Oh,
It's a good time.
Good mom there. Yeah. Espen's my talker, but there's nothing that deep. He just turned 10 today, and he I'm trying to even remember what he likes to talk about. Like, I get up at 4:30 because that is my time. I always say I'm a morning person, but then I realized, no, I'm a morning person because I'm up before everybody else. So I've had coffee, I've exercised and all that.
That's amazing.
And I always tell my kids, I was like, you can have me in the morning, and then in the afternoon and the evening, you get your dad because he's my night owl. So it works for us. But yeah, Espen, he will talk and he will talk. But I figured out the trick. It is,
Yeah.
Okay, buddy.
Yeah.
Probably wouldn't have worked with yours
No,
because
right.
he's a little bit more, in tune if you're
Yeah.
listening or not. But, it is, work-life balance is one of the hard things I think that we a lot struggle as parents. And I think sometimes we feel like maybe we're being judged. I've had people say to me like, oh, don't you want to stay at home and be with your kids through all these times? And I'm like, no, I do not. And that's where I'm like, I have people I trust to help. It takes a village.
Yeah.
It takes a church.
Yep.
To raise your children.
Yes.
And my husband has even told people when they're like, oh, don't you want her to stay at home? And he is like, she worked hard for where she's at and she enjoys it. And I would never take her joy from her. So there have been times where I've definitely been burnt out at work. And something where I've shared with people before, there's been times like probably maybe 10 years in. I've been there for 20 years. It's probably less than that. It's vet med. We get burnt out easily. And it was really, really hard. I was like, I'm missing everything. Why am I doing this? Why do I have to be here? And I really, I came to church. There was, I think we were in Ephesians. I'll have to double check that, but had a lesson on why do you show up for your job? Why do you do what you do? Inevitably, I had to remember that I don't do it for my corporation. I don't do it just for me, but I am there because the Lord has put me there and he's led me to guide people and help people. And there's so many times where I get rewarded with a client that comes in and is like, this is so hard. I've been able to pray with people over their pets, and just be able to be there with people and help people. And I've had a client that they didn't realize I was still there because I work in surgery so much. And then I went into the room and they're like, oh, thank goodness you're still here, because it was that familiar face and that comforting. I'm like, this is why I'm here. God has put me in this path to be here. And I know that can be really, really hard for people when you're struggling with why do I still show up for work every single day? Why am I doing this?
Yeah, absolutely. I think it's cool to, if I mean, there's a lot to be said for just knowing, look, I'm just not the stay-at-home mom type, and I think that when you're confident in that there is kind of this freedom and a peace that comes with it. It doesn't mean that you don't struggle, but you do know, hey, God has placed me here for a reason. And obviously our greatest ministry is at home. Our greatest ministry is our children. And if we ever had to walk away from our careers for any reason, of course we would, but it is great to be able to still kind of have that sense of purpose outside of motherhood as well, because it can be all consuming. And so I think to have something that you can kind of escape to and still have just a drive and purpose, it's what you worked for, right? It's what you went to school for. So it is encouraging to be able to still do that.
Yeah. I know as I get older, it gets easier and easier to put up the walls and everything too for people and be like, these are my lines in the sand and everything. And I know as a younger mom and everything doing it, being like, oh, I have to be here. I have to do this. Otherwise I'm going to get fired. I'm going to get this up. And then just realize why am I worrying about this when I know that God's got a plan for me? But I feel like the older I get, the easier it is for me to be like, it doesn't matter.
Yeah.
Whatever, it's going to be what it's going to be. God's got this plan, and so it's just, I want to give encouragement to other moms out there that may be struggling with that, if your boss is going to fire you because your kid was sick, dude, that's not the boss for you.
Right.
And I have had those times where I felt like my boss was going to fire me. And then I just had to go talk to my boss. And she's like, why would you think that? You know? So it's sometimes it's just we put it on ourselves that, oh my gosh, I can't, take care of my kid because I'm going to lose my job. I can't do this, but we can. And I've heard other moms say the same things like, oh yeah, I remember feeling like I can't go home because my kid's sick, but I had to. I had to go home and I still had my job and I kept on going. So it's realizing that we're all humans and we're all in this. And, if you're a good employee, they're going to want to keep you. And if they're a bad employer, then you don't want to be there.
Exactly.
So,
it's not the environment for you.
But, and, on the other side, I think sometimes too that the homeschooling parents kind of get a bad rap, and it makes me sad. It's not my choice. Right. I'm putting my kids in, I put them in the public school and my daughter, even she was at times jokes about being homeschooled. I was like, we did that during COVID. She's like, oh yeah, you're right. We're not doing that again. And it makes me sad because I think we should all be supporting each other. And I don't know if you ever had any of that directed at you for being a homeschool parent while you were doing it.
Yeah, I think that neither Dave or I were homeschooled, and we didn't have intentions of homeschooling ever when we had talked about having kids, even when we first had Maddie. And then it was the summer before she should have started kindergarten. And I remember somebody was like, "Oh, did you register Maddie for kindergarten yet?" And I was like, "No, she's just a baby, you know?" And I'm like, I can't let her go. I don't know. I just felt in my heart, I'm like, this just isn't it for us. And so we were trying to figure out what, different options, different like private schools, but we were broke, So I'm like, well, I guess the only other option is to homeschool. And so we dove in. And so honestly, I was so like, just deep in the homeschool community just from the get-go from Maddie and then with Micah and Piper, that honestly I felt like more criticism came when we decided to send our kids to public school.
Oh, wow.
I think just a lot of people were like, well, you've made it this far, and Maddie was in middle school at the time when we first sent her, and we had moved here to pastor the church, and I knew that I always wanted to be a nurse. And David and I we got married young. I was 19 and he was 20, and we had Maddie right away.
There's no way you
Oops.
have Maddie. I mean, she's grown and she's, and you're still only like what, 22?
Yeah, I don't know how it happened because she's like married now and we're almost the same age. But yeah, so it was the type of thing where, I just felt like it was time. I'm like, we're here. Dave's job was a little more flexible than what it had been. And so I felt like it was time for me to go back to school. And it was a really tough decision. And I remember that first day dropping the kids off at school, and literally my heart felt like it was just in a million pieces watching Madison walk into that middle school by herself. And I knew she was scared to death. And I was like, oh my gosh, we've made the biggest mistake ever. And that year was hard for her. Like, it wasn't an easy year, but we just knew what the Lord had called us to. And we were confident in that. And so now my kids love school. And it's amazing because seeing my older children at school, even Ezra, they're such a light at school, like they're sharing their faith. They're a light in the darkness. And so this is their mission field. And so I'm happy and excited to be able to send them out, to share. And Ezra does it in different ways. And he's, every teacher is like, Ezra always wants to listen to worship music. It's always, or, we always laugh because they've all heard all of Dave's sermons because he's like, watch Antioch Baptist Church, and so they're like, we watched your husband's sermon this morning. So, I'm like, awesome.
Yeah.
You're hearing the word.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. I think definitely you probably had that kindergarten moment just a little bit later.
Yes.
Because that is definitely
So
how, like, I remember just like ugly crying putting Kenzie on the bus.
Yes.
I didn't even have to watch her walk into that school, but it does come with a lot of faith of the people around your children in the schools, the kids, the teachers and everything, because you really don't know what's going on in there. And to put your mind around the fact that you have to let go of that and trust in the Lord that he's going to deliver them back to you each day is amazing.
Yeah.
And when you really sit there and think about it, and I'm like, wow, I really don't know what's going on. And my kids, I don't know. My kids are at the age where they're like, I'm like, what'd you learn today? I don't know, math.
Right. Yeah.
I'm like, what'd you do today? Espen's like, I ate what you packed in my lunch.
Yeah.
I'm like, but did you? It's still there,
Right,
so
right.
it's just like, it's hard to get things. And so it's like, you really are trusting like the other people around that, they're going to continue. One of the things I love about being in Fluvanna County, especially, is there are so many godly teachers.
Yeah.
And I grew up in Washington State. I love it, but I never had that in my school. And to know that my kids are going into an environment, and not to knock where I was or anything, like, I still have lots of friends there and everything, but it was just different. And to know that my kids are going into a school where, even though the teacher may not be allowed to talk about it, that we know because we've been outside of school with them and they've discussed those things. So I feel even more protected and guarded that, that they're protected, they have these godly people in their lives and everything.
Yeah. I think it's, I always remind myself, just like I feel called to be a nurse, that the Lord has placed me there for a reason. There's a lot of these teachers that the Lord has placed them there for a reason, and it was very nerve-wracking for us when we first adopted Ezra to send him to school. He didn't speak any English. He came from a country he didn't really even know how to use the bathroom facilities that we have here. There were so many things. They didn't, he didn't eat our food. All these things that were so terrifying, and we were sending him to school because we knew we had to. I did not know how to teach him English, and or how to read all these things, and so we were confident in that decision. But man, you talk about, I have no idea what's happening to you when you're there. I don't know if the kids are nice to you. I don't know if you ate lunch today. I don't know if you know how to get to the bathroom. But to see the teachers that poured into him, and he has made such an impact, at Central, now at the middle school, sometimes not always the best impact.
We all have moments. It's middle school. Middle school is hard.
That's
and we
right.
all have moments.
Yes.
And I also teach my children too, like, because sometimes Kenzie's she's an empath, and she, like, she's had moments, she's like, wow, this teacher, like, really, like, kind of like raised their voice and did this. And I'm like, Kenzie, let's think about this. Our teacher's human too. Right. And she's like, absolutely. I was like, are they allowed to have emotions? She's like, yes. I was like, do they sometimes come out like mommies come out at home? Right. And I'm like, oh, I got to back that back in.
Yeah.
She's like, yeah. I was like, so maybe it's not about you, so we have to have those conversations in our house and everything. And middle school's hard.
Middle school is hard.
Middle school's just hard. So, and then our middle school's weird because then you got the 5th grade at the middle school. I remember dropping a stuffed animal off to my daughter at the 5th grade because she just needed something to hold on to. As I walk out crying and having one of the principals follow behind me being like, are you okay? I'm like, no, not really. I'm like just breaking down. The officer there was like, are you going to be okay? I'm like, just don't look at me.
Right. Yeah.
So, but it's so hard. And like he even said, he's like, we know 5th grade doesn't belong at the middle school, and we know that 8th graders don't belong at the high school, but this is what we got. And we're just going to meet our kids where they're at. Yep. And that was very comforting, but also comforting because now he's a pastor at another church. So I knew that he was pouring into my child. Yes. So, but I mean, I adore Ezra, and it's so fun to watch him grow. And my kids like just adore him too. Yeah. And Kenzie will come home and be like, I saw Ezra in the hall and he gave me the biggest hug. And just for a child to just have that much joy and love in him, like, it just makes me want to cry. I'm not going to cry.
But also on the flip side of that, like Ezra doesn't tell us a lot about his day, but he will say he does get excited when he sees kids from church, and it says a lot about your kids and their upbringing as well, because Ezra is different, he has special needs. And so to have kids that embrace that and don't see him that way and love him in spite of that, he's not always welcomed with that. And so I think it just speaks a lot of like, of your kids' upbringing, that they can love Ezra, even though he's a little different. So that's always encouraging too, as a mom, to know that there's kids out there that have his back and that are always willing to give him a hug because he loves hugs.
I had to stop in the school one day because I had to pick up my child's tuba. Yeah. Because of course she chose the biggest instrument.
Yeah, Ezra too.
Yep. And there was Ezra, and he saw me, and he got out of line, and he gave me the biggest hug. I was like, oh, you've made my day. I was like, oh, most of my kids, like, when you walk in, don't look at anybody and don't talk to anybody. Just go straight to the band room and get my instrument. So I was like, oh, I'm taking this kid home with me. So.
He loves a hug.
It is really hard, and it makes me sad that you were kind of I don't know, that you had negative with people that when you left the homeschooling community. Part of me wonders if maybe it's because the homeschool community gets so under fire that then when somebody that's leaving, and you're in your husband's the pastor and all that, and they're like, oh no, they're leaving, like this is gonna give fuel to the other side, kind of thing. So that's where I'm hoping that maybe that came from and everything. So
I hope so. But it's okay. I mean, we just that's another thing too, right? Like we have to make decisions for our family that we know are the direction that the Lord's leading us in. And not everyone will understand that, like friends, sometimes it's even family, grandparents, I know my parents and in-laws were scared to death when we said we were going to homeschool, because they're like, what do you mean? That's weird, but we did it. And then on the flip side, they were like very supportive and learned and saw it was the coolest thing ever. So we have to just be confident in the decisions that we make for our kids and for our families, and just recognize that the outside opinion is not the voice of God, and so we have to be in tune to that and listen to what the Lord has called us to do.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. So, I think, one of the big things that we can definitely, take from all this is that, God's got your back and he's going to lead you where you need to be. You just have to listen.
Yeah.
And I think sometimes as moms, we don't listen.
Yeah.
We're just like full stream ahead, just throwing the silverware in the top rack,
Yep.
despite our husband wanting it differently. Didn't know we never said anything. And it's, I think one of the biggest things that we can do too is make sure you're plugged into a church with some good moms.
Yes.
We don't talk all the time.
Right.
Like we'll shoot each other a quick
Right.
text here or there. I'll see you in church, but I know that if I needed you, I could call you and be like, hey, I need you.
Yeah.
I'm feeling this some way. And you would be there. And there are so many moms at this church that I know and grandmas that we can turn to.
Yeah.
So that is, one of the biggest things that I always recommend to people is like, get plugged into your church, get plugged into a Christian, godly group of women, and they're going to help fill you up and be there. I mean, I had people from this church that showed up to my house where I was like, I think I'm going to lose my job if I stay home one more day with my child. And, Jerry Jensen came to my house, my messy, awful house, and just sat with my daughter for me. Like it was, so it really, God has a purpose for what you're doing, whether you're working in the home, you're working out of the home, and God has a reason why you keep doing what you're doing, and you got to let the guilt go.
Yes.
And you gotta let all those other things that you're feeling, because we feel it differently. Men don't care. Men don't care.
No, they don't.
Not at all. They work differently. So,
Yeah.
but, and just, be who you are with God.
Yeah. Yeah. I like that you said that, because I think a lot of it does just come back to our identity. And I do remember as a stay-at-home mom and homeschooling, it was actually funny because last night I needed to go run to the store. And so I was like, okay, guys, get your shoes on. And the little girls were so excited to go to the store, And Micah was in the kitchen. He was like, man, I remember getting excited when you said we would leave the house. He's like, we didn't get out much, did we? And I'm like, man, I was fighting for my life when y'all were little. Like, if my kids saw me in jeans, they're like, where are we going? It was just such an exciting time. But that was just like, I don't know. I just felt like I really was in the trenches. And because I was a stay-at-home mom, I woke up. There were days that I never left the house, never had adult conversation, was fighting through, homeschooling 2 kids while nursing at the table, breastfeeding Piper at the table, and just all the things. And really during that season, I almost felt like I did lose my identity, because I'm like, I was missing out on things that I wanted to do. Or, I remember one Mother's Day, I was excited to go to church because I was like, man, this is going to be just a fun day of like celebrating me. And then my kids got chicken pox and I couldn't even go to church on Mother's Day, And I remembered sitting, just journaling, being like, but this is motherhood. Like, this is the most important thing. And really just leaning in. I memorized the entire chapter of Psalm 139 and just really leaned on that and focusing in on like, I am fearfully and wonderfully made. The Lord knows me, better than I know myself, and he cares about me. He knows the desires of my heart. And so really in that season of life, just trying to figure out my identity in Christ and who I was in him. And so I think that is the most important thing, because we can, my identity isn't that I'm a labor and delivery nurse. It's not that I'm just a mom. It's that I am a daughter of the Most High King, And so because of that, I can be a stay-at-home mom. I can work outside the home, and I can rest assured that wherever I'm at, if I'm doing what God's called me to do, then my kids are going to be okay. I'm going to be okay. That doesn't mean there's not hard days and days that we probably should give a little more, or maybe we should rest a little more. We don't always get it perfect, but God can definitely fill in the cracks.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I don't know what a better way to end than on that. And you should remember, God's got your back. Yeah. So this has been Come On Somebody. You want to say it? No?
No.
One day we're going to have to tell you why we named it. We'll keep everybody,
everyone guessing
suspense.
For now.
Some people may know, but thank you all for tuning in, and we look forward to the next time.
Thanks for having me.
Thank you for tuning in to the Come On Somebody podcast. I hope that the episode is really encouraging you and giving you something to think about, so you'll draw closer to Jesus this week. We want you to continue to enjoy it, and if you like it, please subscribe and follow the channel. If you'd like to learn more about what's happening at Antioch, you can check us out online at www.antiochva.org. We hope that you stay tuned, and we hope to see you again next week. Thanks for watching.